Hi, this is Chris from the Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from Political Voices Network.
Let's start with, obviously, I don't know, are we overusing the word bombshell? Newly surfaced audio. Trump admits on a recording with Jonathan Karl that the January 6 rioters would have listened to him if he went to the Capitol to, quote, stop the problem. He says it would have been very well received. Let me just read here what other CNN legal expert said. The audio will be highly valuable evidence for the prosecutor and likely to be part of the trial. I'm guessing, I mean, I don't even know, again, how much evidence we need, but give us your take on this latest piece.
Yeah, in case there was any little hole in the evidence proving Donald Trump's criminal intent beyond a reasonable doubt, he's kind of plugged that hole. Yeah. So the reason this is an important statement is because Donald Trump acknowledges that he had the power to stop the attack mid-progress, and he declined to do it. He just said it. I could have gone there and stopped it. Well, what does that make us think of? The January 6th House Select Committee hearing testimony that we all saw that people were streaming in to the private dining room off the Oval Office, begging and pleading to have Donald Trump call off his attack dogs, and he wouldn't. And he now has articulated, I had the power to stop it, and I chose not to. I mean, this guy is dead and stinking as soon as we get this case into trial.
Yeah. And as usual, when it's his big mouth, he just can't stop. Like, he literally, it's in a thing about how big the crowd was. He said, if you look at the real size of that crowd, it was never reported correctly. It was the biggest crowd I've ever spoken to. It's just this thing again. Yeah. And then he just has to keep talking like, oh, I would have been so well received if I went down there. I mean, that's admitting he incited it, that they were there because of him, right?
Yeah, and the crowd size kind of bookends Donald Trump's, time as president and thereafter. It's like, remember Sean Spicer saying, it was the biggest inauguration crowd ever, period. And now we have Donald Trump bragging about the same thing at his pre-insurrection pep rally. This is absolute insanity, Steph.
So Glenn, let's talk about, God, I'm having trouble keeping track of which case that we're talking about. But so this gag order was lifted temporarily in the New York fraud case. Why, first of all?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I am getting so frustrated with the gag orders in both D.C. and New York. Yeah. They're on again, they're off again, they're on again, they're off again. I mean, it's clear that the court system has a real gag reflex problem, right? And the thing is, Steph, when the gag orders are in place, Donald Trump, for the most part, has complied. He violated it a couple of times in New York and got some money sanctions issued against him. But here's the question that I can't answer. Why is it that the institutions of government, criminal justice system, is forever willing to sacrifice the safety and security of witnesses, judges and court staff, prosecutors and jurors to Donald Trump's threats, to his violent rhetoric? I don't have an answer to that. But the one way to stop it is assert the rule of law as it was intended to be asserted and detain him pending trial. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's one way to shut him down, and the law permits it.
I mean, who agrees with you is, what's his name? Ty Cobb, Trump's former lawyer. Yeah. Right? Said Trump should soon end up in jail over his off-the-rails rhetoric regarding his New York business fraud trial. So the limited gag order, you can explain that again, why they lifted it. And it seems like he has, first of all, this citizen's arrest thing, calling for a citizen's arrest. How is that not inciting violence against Letitia James and Judge Engelhardt? It is inciting violence.
I mean, all of this is a variation on the theme that Donald Trump tweeted out on January 6th. Mike Pence didn't have the courage to keep me in office. So you don't have to read between the lines to see that Donald Trump was telling his foot soldiers, get him, get him. Everything Donald Trump tweets and posts and says at his hate rallies is designed to convey the message to his supporters, get them. The people who are endeavoring to hold me accountable for my crimes, get them.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of justice coming, thank God the Paul Pelosi attacker was just convicted yesterday, because that's what's going to happen to you. If you go ahead, follow Trump's, incitement of violence. So he was, what's his name? David Dupay, found guilty on both counts. Prosecutors had indicted him on charges of attempted kidnapping of a federal officer or employee and assault on an immediate family member of a federal officer. He faces up to life in prison. Good. But, obviously that makes clear, too, the target was Nancy Pelosi, and this was a continuation of Trump's orders on January 6th, right?
And we keep sacrificing innocent folk to Donald Trump's, violence inciting behavior and posts and rants. And I don't know why it is, but, there's always a little silver lining behind the big dark cloud, or maybe the big orange cloud. And that is Judge Chutkan. Everything she has said and everything she has done proves that she's determined to take Donald Trump to trial beginning in early March. Unless the Supreme Court somehow stops it, stays it, pauses it, Donald Trump is going to trial in early March, and probably by the end of April, he'll be a convicted felon.
Yeah.
So everybody needs to hold fast to that little sliver of a silver lining behind the big dark cloud.
Well, no more than a liberal hippie like Chris Christie agrees with you. So, but talk to me quickly about this citizen's arrest thing, because obviously a legal expert is saying there is no basis for a citizen's arrest. This is why that in itself is breaking the law, isn't it? He said the speech here should be viewed as incitement, and Trump should be held to account for it. I mean, that's if someone has broken the law. Obviously, Letitia James and Judge Engoron have not broken the law. So has he, in fact, broken the law by calling for that?
Yeah, but how many times have we let him break the law with impunity, endangering the lives of witnesses and others? But directing people to go out and engage in citizens' arrests of his perceived enemies, that is urging people, again, to violence in a new and creative way. And the question forever will be, what is the system willing to do about it? And, thus far, the system hasn't really been willing to tackle that.
Yeah. So let's talk. Oh, God, so much criming. Let's turn to Georgia. So the judge overseeing the election interference case in Georgia issued an order that prohibits the release of certain evidence. Scott McAfee, is that the judge there, wrote that allowing the party's unfettered ability to publicly share pretrial materials undermines the discovery process during which lawyers for both sides share evidence. Obviously, this was leaked. I think he said it to witness tamper again, right?
Yeah, and I do think it probably qualifies as irony that there is one defendant that Fani Willis is seeking to revoke on release and detain pending trial because that defendant poses a danger to witnesses, and yet Donald Trump is not being detained pending trial and Fani Willis isn't attempting to revoke him. I don't know. If you had to measure the danger to society represented by Donald Trump versus represented by that other defendant down in Georgia, I'm going with Donald Trump. He's a danger to society. He's a danger to the witnesses. He's a danger to the very existence of our democracy. And yet nobody has prodded the rule of law into wakefulness to detain him pending trial. Maybe that's coming.
Let's talk about our very least favorite judge and case, Judge Cannon. So a lot of people speculating that Jack Smith has to be close to asking for recusal. What do you think? And what are the chances there?
Steph, I'm not a betting man. I'm not a high roller. $1 is my betting limit. I would put $1, and I'm sorry to say this, on Jack Smith declining to file a motion to recuse. I think it should have been filed long ago, and here's why. I think we need to litigate in the harsh light of day the question of Judge Cannon's impartiality or lack of impartiality. Let's get the courts to make that decision. It will be Judge Cannon's decision to make in the first instance, because you make the motion to the judge to have her recuse herself. Assuming she refuses, then it goes up to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. But let's get this issue hashed out on the facts and the law rather than forever wondering aloud, why in the world are we letting it happen? And then we have to live with whatever the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals decides. But I'd rather have the issue litigated and decided authoritatively, and then we can move on.
I don't know if you noticed, but my dog only starts whining when we talk about Judge Cannon. All of the other cases, they're fine with.
Right.
You said Jeff Clark, you tweeted, Jeff Clark has revealed his prospective witness list for his upcoming bar discipline trial. It includes, a list of a parade of insurrectionists.
Yeah.
Like, remember Disney on Ice?
Yeah.
Yes. Mark Meadows, Matt Gaetz, Scott Perry, etc. Talk to us about that for a minute.
Yes, my favorite is Scott, pardon me, Perry, right? This guy knew he committed crimes on and around January 6th, which is what prompted him to ask for a pardon.
Yeah.
You only ask for a pardon if you know you committed crime and you want to get away with it, right?
You.
So, boy, would I love to cross-examine Scott Perry if he's going to testify on behalf of, a Jeffrey Clark, because I would spend an hour asking him about why he felt the need to ask for a pardon to get away with his J6 crimes. And I don't know that I would ever cross-examine him on anything else. We would just spend our whole day together, and he would be, I would highlight all of the evidence that makes it clear that he committed crimes, and then we talk about pardons. So you know what, Jeff, bring it on.
Yeah. There it is, my first drink of the day, Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic. Many of you know my story. I stopped drinking wine for 3 years during COVID, during the lockdown as part of a health reset. Now I drink wine in moderation, but this is an amazing new product. I've always believed in probiotics. And Z-Biotics, check this out. You drink just one of these. It's the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. I am using this and I feel great in the morning. I don't have to worry if I have an extra glass of wine, I still feel great in the morning. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. I've always had acid reflux problems. It is this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. All I know is it works. It is Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic. Go to zbiotics.com/politicalvoices or scan the QR code on the screen right now.